So, as I have been preparing for my women's retreat on the 18th, I have been delving even more deeply into this thing called You by Ernest Holmes. And as I've said in the past, I read it every morning, and it sets my mind to be in a place of abundance, to be in a space of, vibrating at the level of manifestation. And it's been really a joy to be required to spend even more time with it, and finding these 8 spiritual laws in the book. They're not listed as chapter titles. They're not part of a sequence of things. And so it was sort of a little treasure hunt for me to kind of discover this. Wow, look at this. There are these 8 spiritual laws that he talks about. And in the planning of the schedule of things, I've clumped some of them together, and I've realized that the law of perfect action and the law of faith have to go together. So one of them is about acknowledging that perfection and all of the answers are already within you. And the other is about learning to depend on that knowledge. So the law of perfect action, he says this about it. He says, stop arguing, learn to believe. Stop debating, learn to accept. Stop looking for an authority outside your own conviction. This calls for complete confidence in the law and equal confidence in yourself. So we're depending on the divine, but we're also depending on the fact that we have that constant connection. It's learning to depend on that inner voice and not look out at circumstances or other people's opinions, and beginning to learn to have the faith in that. He says our insecurities and our unworthiness comes from a feeling of rejection, and that this is something that every human being has. We all experience this. So we don't need to go delving into the how did this happen? Was it the PE class in 3rd grade, or was it the whatever? We don't need to do that. We need to instead focus on the light that we're looking for, the dream that we have. He says, focus on the inspirational center within you, which is nothing less than the divine in you singing its song of life. I just love that image, the idea that life is singing its song through us, that we are here as I've said many times, the hands and feet of God, so that we can sing this creative substance into life, into form. And that's what we're here as human beings to do. And confusion comes from a sense of separation. So confusion becomes because we're looking at that surface. We're looking at only the physical and only what all of our historic lessons that we've been, not only just in our own physicalness, but in the whole of society's history. We're carrying those. But he also says that thoughts that have been created in us can also be recreated in a different way. We can choose to have different thoughts. So that's another thing that we'll be focusing on. But so the law of faith happens as you believe. And that's kind of a hard little thing to grasp, the idea of as you believe. That there's a shift that happens when we really have the faith that something's going to happen. It can sort of live in this state of, oh, that would be so nice. Oh, I would love that. But there's a shift when we turn to faith, when we realize that this perfect action that's calling in us, this divine purpose, that was seeded by this connection, this passion, this desire that we have to manifest something in the world came out of that connection with Source. So the sense of faith, the turning to the law of faith, is really trusting that there will be support in making that happen. And a confidence that it will happen. And I have noticed that a huge difference in the shift of my own personal energy in a situation when I've come to really feel that faith. And, it is one of those, not really a roller coaster, but a changing experience, like any emotion that we have, that sometimes we can feel so connected to a vision that we just know it's going to happen. That's the feeling I'm talking about. And then, other times when those fears and those doubts and those disbeliefs come in, to just catch ourselves more quickly and turn back to that sense of faith, turn back to the vision that we can put on, the emotions, the feelings that we're having as we get this thing that we're wanting, that we're desiring, and trusting that if God's going to put an image and a dream in your mind, it's also going to give you the ability to manifest that dream. And we have to do the work, and that's part of the things as well. But these two aspects, this idea of the law of perfect action, that there is perfection inside of us, and as we listen to that voice, that's when things manifested the way we want them to. And to have a sense of faith. He talks about when we don't have perfect faith in it, what we're really doing is we're using it backwards on ourselves. We're using the doubt as it not happening, that we doubt God's happening, and therefore we're telling the universe that we don't really want what it is that we want. We're telling them that we, want it to fail or want it to not experience that. He says, believe in the part of you, of that part of you, the higher part of you, more than the circumstances around you. That's what the law of faith is about. And have belief that the desires within you are possible. So live in your vision and believe that it will manifest. So I invite you this week to begin to play with these things, to begin to play with the idea of this law of perfect action, that there is a sense of knowing and perfection within us, and the law of faith, that trusting that voice inside of us, trusting that intuition, and see where it takes you this week, really trusting that you are guided and trusting that the universe has your back. And again, I'm going to put in another plug for my women's retreat. It's going to be so amazing. The forest is gorgeous. And the people that are coming, I'm just really excited. It's going to be a wonderful time. I'm so excited about the evenings around the campfire and the meals that we'll share together and the silent time in the forest, and just really delving into how we can begin to feel that law of perfect action and develop the sense of faith in our lives among the other 6 laws that we'll be studying. So have a great week. Blessings.